Thank you, Pete. 60 years ago, 19 men and women came together to found Mebyon Kerrnow. These men and women of foresight were true visionaries, far, far ahead of their time. Here today in 2011, we exist to look forward, to win a better deal for Cornwall, and most importantly, to win greater self-government through a National Assembly for Cornwall. But we must never forget that we are only here because of the efforts and the dedication of those people who went before us and dedicated themselves to making sure that issues of Cornish nationhood became political. At the start of this 60th anniversary conference, it is right that we do look back to the birth of MK in 1951 and their commitment. And this is a quote from the early aims of the party: to further the acceptance of the Celtic character of Cornwall and its right to self-government in domestic affairs in a federated United Kingdom. One catalyst that led to the founding of MK was the 1950 Celtic Congress held in Truro, which brought together many like-minded individuals, all doing their bit in different ways to give expression to Cornish nationality. Another was the infamous written attack on the Cornish in 1949 by the second-rate writer Sidney Haller. In the Cornish Review magazine, he actually castigated us for being a primitive people with a farmyard morality, and that we were backward, illiterate and ignorant, and we also had an inferiority complex on top of that. And one of our former leaders, Richard Jenkins, once wrote that he thought this attack was actually the kick-start that people needed to ensure that Cornish nationality was expressed in every department of life, so that it would not succumb to the ever-increasing pressure of modern centralism. So I think it's right that we do actually pay our tributes today to the lives of the founder members and what they actually contributed to Cornwall. Our first chairman was a lady called Helena Charles, formidable woman. That's a polite way of saying a lot of people thought she was very difficult to get along with. She was also the first individual to present MK policies to the electorate, winning a seat on Camborne and Redruth Urban District Council as an independent in 1953. She stood under the slogan, "A square deal for the Cornish," and she had the earliest sort of MK logo on her leaflet. To quote from that leaflet, "Until the government of Britain is decentralised, we shall continue to endure the present state of affairs in which an anonymous clerk in Bristol or London can make decisions vitally affecting Cornwall and the rates in this very little district in Cornwall." Our first secretary, Lambert Truro, we've already paid tribute to Lambert, who died earlier this year. And although he left Cornwall in the 1950s, he was a strong champion of Cornish identity in both South Africa and then Australia, where he lived. And what is more, his brother Len was a driving force for MK as chairman and secretary in the 1960s and 1970s. Our first treasurer, George Paulie White. Like so many others, Paulie was at the heart of the Cornish movement and one of the 4 founder members who rose to the position of Grand Bard of the Cornish Gorseth. Ernest George or Talek Hooper, known to most by his bardic name Talek, and his wife Bertha. Together they ran a school in Mount Pleasant in Camborne, where they specialised in teaching Cornish. Talek served as Grand Bard as well, and he published a Cornish language magazine and Leif Kerrnow, the Cornish Voice, for nearly 20 years. Bertha, meanwhile, was one of MK's first election candidates in the 1960s, again in the Camborne area. Richard Jenkins. Richard was our party's most dedicated and constant activist, whose achievements will never be surpassed. Party chairman for 10 years, MK's first parliamentary candidate in 1970, MK's Euro candidate in 1979 when he polled over 10,000 votes, and honorary president until his death in 2002. Our life president, Anne Jenkins. Anne is here today and will follow me. Anne again has been a stalwart member since the day MK was founded right through to now, supporting Richard, Loveday, Conan, the whole family with their work for MK. She also found the time to spearhead much within the wider movement, not least the celebrations to mark the 500th anniversary of the Angove Rebellion of 1497. And again, Richard and Anne were both Grand Bards. Just a few more. It's quite a renowned company, really, isn't it, that put so much into founding MK. Charles Thomas, the renowned archaeologist, became the first director of the Institute of Cornish Studies, also still going strong. Francis Cargee, a renowned specialist in copper artwork. Stephen Fuller, who edited the Padstow Echo but died tragically young. Martin Yelland, who had a small tin mining enterprise near St Agnes, and Anne tells me he had rickety ladders. So there we go. We owe a great debt to all these stalwart and talented Cornish men and women, as well as the other founder members, some of whose names do not actually survive in our records, sadly. Their collective work, which is seeped into so many aspects of Cornish life, is truly legendary. It underpins so much about Cornwall and its cultural and political life that we take for granted today. Their work prepared the ground which enabled the Cornish movement to grow, and to grow into the wonderful, wide-ranging and diverse network that we see in Cornwall today. And as we look forward, we should also remember those members who suffered disdain and ridicule, but whose determination made sure that MK survived those early difficult years and grew. We should remember those members whose persistence ensured that MK developed into a pressure group of significant influence, able to launch campaigns for a Cornish Assembly, a Cornish University, our own institutions for economic development, greater recognition for our language and our cultural traditions, and recognition for our national symbols, such as St Perrin's flag. We should also remember those members who had the bravery to turn Mebyon Kerrnow from a pressure group into a fully fledged political party, so that it was no longer a badge of convenience for the self-interest of politicians from London-centred parties. Over the last 6 decades, we have also been very, very fortunate that we have had hundreds and thousands of individuals who have played their part as councillors, candidates, leafleters, letter writers, and so much more. We all have much to be proud of. We have launched, we have developed, and we have spearheaded campaign after campaign that has gone to the very heart of political discourse in Cornwall. Whether a university education, a development agency, NUTS 2 status for Objective 1 funding, the list does go on. But most of all, we've remained true to our principles. The members of the London-based political parties may, time and time again, stampede onto the political ground that we have served with honour, but they have so often failed to remain true to those causes that they have espoused for short-term political advantage. They have so blatantly co-opted the policies of MK. They have said one thing to people in Cornwall, totally different thing to people in London. They have given their support to local campaigns, and then they've blatantly backtracked when told to by their Westminster masters, undermining the very policies they claim to support. But we are different, and we will continue to be different. No one joins MK for an easy life. Look at us. We aren't guaranteed influence, we aren't guaranteed any prestige. We join MK, people like you and I, because we're passionate about Cornwall, and we're passionate about doing what is right for Cornwall, and that is what matters. I'm proud to be the leader of MK, and I'm proud to be here with you today. I'm proud of what we stand for, what we've done over the last 60 years, and the work that we will continue to do for Cornwall and its communities in the weeks and months ahead. Thank you for your time, and I do hope you enjoy this weekend's conference. Thank you very much.